is the morning after the now famous phrase, man disposes, or man proposes. This time around, God disposes. You know what I'm talking about. Good morning, and welcome to your perfect day start of the morning brief. I'm Kayode Okikulu.
You know, some days are stormy, cloudy, and we may not be able to make it sunny by ourselves, but we can make some positive energy, you know, with our work and our dedication. Welcome to your perfect morning starter, where we help you to do just that. And of course, I'm blessed among bright sparks, Kayode and Jeffrey. No, Jeffrey and Kayode.
Why do you always start like that? For whatever reason. Welcome, good morning, and welcome to the program. Of course, it's 15 days down the line. So later today, we should be expecting inflation numbers for last month to know how well or not well numbers are doing in terms of the rate of change of prices of goods and services. So you'll be on the lookout for that as well. I know a lot is on your mind, but I just needed to remind you of this in addition to the things that are on your mind, guys.
Oh, yes. As I said earlier on, one of the trending topics online, offline, almost everywhere you turn to is that expression, man proposes, God disposes. It's been in the works for weeks now with all of the outcry around the latest UTME results. But now, well, it has come to a head in some sense with the official announcement by JAMB that indeed there was a huge technical failure on the part of the examination, JAMB itself, the one conducting the examination. So a lot of students, 300,000 students, will be retaking the UTME examination from Friday up until, I think, Tuesday. So there you have it, guys. This it's almost bittersweet in some sense. It's sweet in this fact, in the sense that there's been, well, an investigation, an outcome which points to what we've always suspected. But the bitter part is all of the distress that the previous result had caused. Let's be clear, with this announcement, 1.2 million still score below 200, right? Because originally it was 1.5 billion. So 1.2 million still score below 200. But for the 300,000 plus who'll be retaking it, we're hoping that this will be done right this time around, guys.
Well, it was heartbreaking to see the JAMB boss fight back tears yesterday. And it was also reassuring to see a leader take responsibility for their action. And, you know, it is said that the ability to take responsibility, it by itself inspires responsibility from followership. And we just hope that, you know, leaders in other spectrums will be able to, you know, take a cue from that. That being said, those responsible for this error, you know, that the JAMB boss ascribes to what has now turned out to be, you know, something that some, maybe just one person, but that life has taken their life for. And I believe that it is news of that one person that, you know, caused the JAMB boss to be emotional. Those officials should, you know, take responsibility as well, and they should be served some form of punitive action such that this does not reoccur. Now, well, those 375,000, over 300,000 students who failed in error, we hope that by this admission of responsibility, when they take the exams, that their rightful results will now be given to them. More importantly, we hope that this does not reoccur because of, you know, the strategic importance of that particular exam to students who are, you know, off to higher institutions of their choice. But really, it's a sad experience. It leaves a very sour taste in the mouth. But then again, we commend the JAMB boss, Mr. Ishaq Oloyede, for taking responsibility. Jeffrey.
At the end of the day, my mind cannot go away from the girl in Ikorodu who took her life. Anything that involves life and death, I don't take it lightly at all. I don't know what would that happen, what JAMB will do. Maybe the prof should go visit the family in extending this. I know some people are calling for his head, for him to resign, since he's taking responsibility and all of that. But I'm just thinking about the young girl who took her life because she scored 190. We do not know for a fact whether she was part of those that this technical glitch or error affected, such that she scored low or not fail in that sense, that less than 200. But our thoughts and our prayers are with that particular family. And I will suggest to Jam that the honorable thing to do, now that you've admitted, if she's part of those who this affected one way or the other, I think it's nice. It would be nice to see you go there and just condolence visit and do whatever it is you can to compensate this family. And again, some persons are calling for his head, whether he should resign and all of that. Some are even saying it's sabotage, some are saying it's not sabotage. But it's good to see him take responsibility. Whether he will resign afterwards is a different kettle of fish. But another part, guys, that is also critical is that I spoke to some of them today within JAM, and they are doing all they can to get this exam out of the way, because I think WAEC or one of these other exams is coming up. So combining that with JAM for the student is going to be a very tough responsibility. So everybody has to be lenient. I was listening to the radio. I heard that part of what even depressed some of the students is the conduct of the invigilators themselves, who I heard when the system was logging them out, some were laughing, you know, rather than take responsibility. So all of this has to be checked, so that this doesn't happen again. All right, guys.
And naturally, that's where we're starting off from on the show today. Lots of talking points on that one, lots of lessons to learn. Ironically, it is said that she got a provisional admission from JAM, according to reports from her mail. So we're starting off with that 2025 UTME controversy. JAM has now admitted to that error. So what should we do better this time around? How should we approach issues like this and ensure that we don't put the lives, the psyche of hundreds of thousands of our children in danger? That's where we're starting off on the show this morning.
We'll still be staying with education pretty much to review the now suspended bilateral education agreement, but through the eyes of students who are beneficiaries or supposed beneficiaries of that scheme that has now been suspended. What are their grievances? It's a conversation that you should, look forward to this morning.
And of course, we'll go to the arts, the role of art in national development. What can art do to help us in our quest for cohesion? Talk about it right here on the program.
All right, that's not all. We'll be heading over to Canada, where a Nigerian is doing some amazing things. So Dr. Taiwo Afolabi is our guest on Diaspora Connect. He just won one of the most prestigious academic awards in Canada. Why? What is he doing? Well, you have a clue from the stage already, but we'll be diving deeper into his story on the show.
All right, guys, remember you can connect with us. All you have to do is to go to our email. It will scroll on your screen, send your messages and all of that, as well as a WhatsApp number that's also scrolling on your screen. Or you go to X, CTV Morning Brief with the hashtag. You will be able to send us messages and videos, and we'll do our best to amplify your voice as a community show.
So I dare say it's a bumper package that we have for you this morning from across Nigeria and even beyond. But what are you saying about the big stories online? Kadi, how did you describe it yesterday?
The front pages of the online.
Online, yeah.
But before we get to the front pages online, let's start with the traditional front
pages, right?
So we'll be right back with the front pages in a moment.
Welcome back. And so, unsurprisingly, Nigeria this morning leads with the big story that is on the hearts, minds, and lips of everyone. UTME tech failure. JAM registrar weeps, apologizes. 379,997 to retake exam on Friday and Saturday. You find details on the inside pages, page 4 to be precise. Of course, there you'll get the breakdown of the figures and, how it all played out. But that's it from the front page of this Nigeria.
There you go. It's definitely one of our major talking points on the program this morning. And just to tell you that the picture you see on the front page is, well, children inside one of the Nigerian Air Force fighter jets during an open day as part of activities to commemorate NAV's 61st anniversary celebration. You know, for a lot of children, you either want to be a soldier at some point, or this time, you know, an Air Force pilot. I wanted to be a soldier at some point. At some point, maybe at a level. But anyway, it's good to see that.
Doesn't sound very attractive anymore.
So let's move over to the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. And you make a valid point, Bukola. Absolutely valid. Even the authorities have spoken about that. But it's good to see these things. Hopefully we can renew the trust in the trust and, well, the... what would I call it now? Because there's some certain aspect of showbiz to this as well. Make it look good to them so they can come.
Remember the Legion that we had on the show just 2 months back during the Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration, 3 months back to be precise. He said quite a lot, even to the extent that he would not want his own child, you know, to go into the armed forces. So I couldn't resist that remembrance.
Oh, yeah. So introduce it to them early enough. But take a look at the Vanguard front page. Vanguard focuses on insecurity. And you see this really shocking one. It's hard to read, but we just have to take it. It says, bandits feed our babies to their dogs. Who says that? Well, that's according to a Zamfara lawmaker. It says that bandits now established as de facto authorities over local residents. Military more determined than ever to go after terrorists. That's the Chief of Defense Staff. And you see British envoy saying worrisome insecurity is spillover from Sudan, Niger, and Zamfara, northwest region of the country, Borno, northeast region of the country. What are the countries that border those areas? Well, there you have it, Niger, Sudan, and the rest. So, yet again, insecurity makes its way to the front page. Jeffrey.
Okay, let's get to the Blueprint newspaper. It's leading with a different headline this time. DSS drags Patutomi, that's a professor of political economics, to court over shadow government, accuses ex-ADC presidential candidate of plot to usurp Tinubu's powers. When I saw this headline, it's more like the state institution is now playing into the hands of the very thing the professor was saying. I had the opportunity to interview the prof to ask him exactly what do you mean by a shadow government. So he now explained to the effect that, look, he put a team together that will consistently be reviewing policies, not persons. Policies of, for instance, we have the Nigeria First policy. They're going to review it, critique it, and look at options available in that sense. So they have this team is put together like a shadow cabinet. So I'm wondering what all of this is. And when I gave that explainer to the APC National Secretary, who did a 3-pager in response, saying that he's an intellectual drama king, I asked him, now that the man has explained, I could really apologize. He said, no, he won't, because of the way the man listed it. But he said he now understands where the man was coming from at the end of the day. But I'm surprised that the DSS is jumping in on the fray. Professor Yemi Oshiba just said worse during the 2014-2015 presidential election. He said he agrees with the national chairman of their party that there will be a parallel government if they subvert the will of the people in that election. And Sean asked him, is that not inciting? Is that not anarchy? He said, no, it's not inciting, it's not anarchy. It's just a way of putting pressure on the government for subverting the will. That's parallel government. So I don't know why institutions like the DSS is jumping in on this.
Expression, intellectual drama king, I don't know what you think about it, Kadi, but it is the absence of intellect in our political discourse and in fact practice that is responsible for where we are today. You know, for instance, put the Nigeria First policy under scrutiny, and you would see that actors in the government are beginning to work against it by their own actions of taking a press conference to unveil the achievement of this administration outside the country. Is that not another brand of information tourism, another type of tourism?
I don't know. I just felt that DSS should have stayed away from this.
And then again, the entry of DSS into this discourse, what is their own interest?
Yes.
I thought the DSS had to do with security. Does Professor Patomi pose any form of insecurity by his intellectual drama positioning? I really do not understand.
I've interviewed Professor Pat. I've interviewed APC National Secretary, who said now they understand. So why is DSS in this? Maybe DSS, you also come and explain. Well, I don't know. Because I'm reminding them that the prof I respect so much, Yemi Oshibajo, said worse in defense of what the national chairman of the party said then, before the election. It was presidential, vice presidential candidate. It's a parallel government.
But that had a condition. If
it doesn't matter.
No, I'm just saying.
No. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Let me explain to you why.
So this has already been formed.
No, let me just.
No, I understand. I'm just putting in context that there was a condition.
This is a list of people that will be checking policy for policy and advising.
No, absolutely. That's great.
What I'm saying is that when the election held, this last election, Obi, Atiku, everybody say go to court. They were saying then we will form a parallel government. You see, that's why Sean was asking, is this not inciting? Is not going to be anarchy? I'm saying in context, one is worse. You can choose which. Yeah, I just felt the DSS should have stayed out of it.
Well, the DSS...
It seems apparently like a good talking point for the coming days.
A lot of people will point DSS to other insecurity issues happening across the country. We need to gather intelligence. But hey, what are you saying? Let's gather intelligence from Nigerians.
Right?
Quickly. What are you saying about these stories?
I like that part.
What are you saying about these stories, some of these other stories online? And I think naturally we should start from the Minister of Power statement. Again, we'll get to the JAM conversation in a moment, but let's touch on other issues, because the Minister of Power said that Nigeria needs $10 billion yearly to achieve stable power supply. So if you do the math, $10 billion at the current rate, you know how much that is really, and it just dwarfs whatever it is we've been planning for anything, and that is a yearly amount. So what are Nigerians saying about this? Oluwabori is the first user who says, then look for how you'll get it and build electricity for Nigeria. And that's Oluwabori speaking first on the Minister of Power's statement on Nigeria needing $10 billion yearly. He says, that's how Nigerians will not forget your tenure as a minister. So how do you raise the money? I remember speaking with a top official in the APC, Senator Basiru, who was responding to the Lagos State Deputy Governor, who had said that he spends millions on power monthly. And he said, well, electricity generation is expensive, right? So how do we raise the much-needed funds? I know that the federal government is trying to touch some discos who are underperforming, find ways around making them perform. But that question still looms. How do we raise money for the power sector?
Well, this next comment is very brief, but biting. There's no other description. Listen to this from Africa Stories. Stating figure with no vision amounts to failure. Well,
I am just concerned about, I've never seen a minister that laments like Minister Adelabo. He has series of, and I don't blame him. It's one of the ministries you should run away from being a minister in, because it has defied every government, from Olusegun Obasanjo to Yar'Adua to Goodluck Jonathan to Muhammadu Buhari. President Tinubu's administration now is trying to decentralize, whether that will, in a way. That's what I'm even suggesting at some point in my mind, given how passionate Wike can be in doing his things. I feel that Wike should be deployed at some point to that, because it's either the people that want to spoil power sector die, or he will die. I'm just saying, because the power sector has defied a lot of things. 15 trillion every year. Where are we going to get it from? Which is why they are saying they should totally deregulate that sector, where everybody is going to be in Ban A, so that to attract investors. Now, some of us on Ban A, we're already crying. So imagine the poor people in that sense, the people who don't have all of this, to be able to pay the kind of amount they are asking for. So I can understand where it's coming from, but lamentation, again, is not going to solve any problem. Investors have to come in. We already made very unforgivable mistakes, giving licenses to people who had no capacity, either resources or in terms of skill. at the very beginning. So we hope that this is going to change at some point where the minister will stop this lamentation. We need to see investors. What does it take? Let's talk to the people. If we have to outsource just to bring stability and then we can, I don't know, let's just do something rather than lamentation.
All right.
You have the next one.
Oh, yes. Maybe we should just move on to yet another talking point. And I think this will just help us segue into the big conversation of the day. And that's, well, the JAMB Registrar apologizing to candidates for error in the 2025 UTME results. So 379,997 will be retaken at the examination on Friday. So let's just let you listen to the JAMB Registrar. He got emotional, but there were people clapping as well at the same time. So take a listen to what he said.
Today marks a moment we shall not soon forget. A day that should have been filled with celebration for what was, until recently, regarded as our most successful UTM exercise. Regrettably, this joy has been overshadowed by an easily avoidable error by one or two persons. The unusual level of public concern and loud complaints has prompted us to do an immediate audit or review of what happened, which we ordinarily would have done in June. I want to make it clear that our review and investigation revealed that there are grounds for the complaints about our 2025 UTME result. 5 states of the Southeast were affected, but in terms of number, over 200, all of them coming from Lagos State, were affected, but 173,387 from the Southeast states. In clear terms, in the process of rectifying the issue, the technical personnel deployed by our service provider for LAG, Lagos and Southeast zones, inadvertently failed to update some of the delivery servers. Regrettably, this oversight went undetected prior to the release of the results. I appeal to the candidates and those affected by the error of our system to accept the explanation I've given as the truth on this matter. I apologize and take full responsibility, not just in words.
So that's the JAMB registrar there in tears. He got a standing ovation after that. But let's take a look at what you're saying before we dive even deeper into this one. JAMB HQ also put out a statement to that effect, which got a lot of people talking, saying that man proposes, God disposes, which is why I started the show with that statement, and gave an explainer. But I think that irked a lot of people, that statement, man proposes, God disposes. You see, Happy Mama, which is the next user, the next comment on this one, saying that 1 year of effort, studies, taking risks to go to and fro, lessons and expectations wasted. When will they start appointing the competent people? Again, and I think it was Mr. Osita Chidoka that said this is a man who had consistently been at the forefront of innovation in JAMB. This incident, yes, it is a major one, should not be swept under the carpet. There should be consequences, but that's not to throw away all of the advancements up until this point. But absolutely, this must be dealt with appropriately.
I totally agree. The man has brought a lot of sanity to the administration of JAMB in that sense. So this is one that really is painful, and everything must be done to bring everyone responsible to book without discarding his efforts so far. Let's read from Global. Okay, James said there is just something very annoying about the incompetence in Nigeria, and it is that there is hardly any consequence for it, which is why we're saying there has to be consequence one way or the other. We've followed Isha Koloyede for a long time in how he has managed JAMB. He's very strict. He no nonsense and all of that. He's not perfect. I'm not even trying to make a case for him, but let's remember that he has done some good things as well. Whether he's going to honorably resign or he's forced to, it's a different kettle of fish altogether. I am just saying that, look, whatever has to be done to make up for this mess must be done. Guys?
Which I reiterate would be to bring to account those one or two persons that the JAM registrar referred to you know, be made to face the full consequence of their action. I mean, we can't take it out of our minds that one person has taken their own life over what has been seen to be, it should have been avoided. Whether that person is even affected or not is what we do not know at this time. But again, we offer our condolences. And if there's an opportunity, there is an opportunity for the over 375,000 students to resit for this exam. So 1 year may not have been wasted. So let's await the outcome of their own results for those who think that 1 year has been wasted. But that will form our very first talking point this morning, and we're going to weigh all of the odds and the ends, and especially how to ensure that this does not repeat itself again. So we'll be having two guests joining us after this time out. So stay with us, we'll be right back.
So let's get right into it. It's the morning after, bittersweet feeling, lots of emotions all over the place. We're joined, as you can see, by Professor Kola Kazim, former Provost, College of Education, now University of Education, Ogun State. He joins us this morning virtually. And we have an education and human resource professional, Yomi Fawemi, joining us from Canada. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the program. As I said, it's mixed feelings across the country right now, particularly for the students who wrote the UTME, particularly the ones who will be writing or rewriting it, and their parents, guardians, you know, educational service providers, you know, all of the people across that value chain. So I'd like to get your opening comments, and I'll begin with Professor Kola Kazim, because you've been at the very top as well. When issues like this happen, a lot of people say there needs to be more. An apology is great, but a lot of people are calling for much more. So what more must be done to restore trust in that system? Because this is at the foundation of whatever it is that we're trying to build as a nation, education.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I will start by saying that if you see a 70-year-old man cry on live television, that should speak volume. That tells you that the situation is beyond what he feels should be. And that tells you how pained the situation is. And we should then understand that whatever has happened will be based on human error. So we must, from that perspective, be very circumspect in the way we react, in the way we want to kill the ants with a sledgehammer. We have reasons to revisit and review the process of our admission and all of those things, and even the educational system. But then we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that you can't, because you have a headache, chop off your head. We must take some steps back, look at what the situation is, and seek to find ways of sorting it out. I am one of those who believe that we can't continue to change all of the things we have because we have some mistakes. We must build on it. We must find a way of sorting those things out so that at the end of the day, we will get, if it is not near perfect, we'll get something that is at least acceptable across board. Those are my first comments. Thank you.
Let me go over to Mr. Fawemi. Thank you, Prof. And same question, really, but maybe you bring in the global best practice into this one. Prof has said, well, yes, human error. Other people have said, when some of the students make human error in the examination, their results are final. There's no revisiting, there's no call for clemency in that sense. So when it comes to global practices, this error has happened. There's been an admittance, there's been an apology, even tears. Responsibility has been taken. What more must be done to restore trust in the system?
Okay, thank you for the question. Really appreciate. Thanks to my colleague, the professor who spoke earlier. For me, I have a couple of concerns because of the fact that this error, as it is called error, was not discovered because JAM did enough self-introspection. If you read the press release by the JAM registrar, he had said that they have noticed something went wrong while the exam was going. I'm concerned that JAM noticed something was not right and did not immediately stop the exam. If you remember that we had an election in Nigeria, for example, where INEC discovered on the day of the election that something was going wrong and they stopped the election and then postponed it. I'm concerned that JAM did not have the capacity did not have the strength of character to identify the problem and stop the exam. I'm also concerned that JAM released the results while it was aware that something was not going on. And I'm also concerned that if you check the press release that was done by Professor Dr. Fabian Osuji, and then the one released by the registrar yesterday, both of them said their response is because of the outcry. For both of them, they said, well, and this is what they have done over the years, that after the 3 stages in the JAM process, in the UTME process particularly, there's always a look back or a review. They said this time around, all they are doing is they are making the review closer. It's not as if they have not always reviewed, because some people say, oh, JAM listens to the people. JAM always does this review. The only thing they did this time was to do it much closer. And according to the 2 men, it was because of the outcry and the amount of complaints. So I'm concerned that if people did not complain, I'm concerned if people did not send a freedom of information request. I'm concerned if people did not threaten a court action. Would JAM have carried out this review early enough? Remember, JAM would have carried out a review maybe sometimes later in the year at the point in which nothing can be done. So my biggest challenge with all this process, and I like the fact that JAM owned up and apologized, is the fact that as a learning institution, you know, there's a difference between an institution of learning and a learning institution. A learning institution is an institution that has a capacity to learn as it goes along. I think JAM has that weakness. The other thing I'm really concerned with, and personally, I wrote a message to JAM like 2 weeks ago, and I said, JAM, this is a CBT exam. The design of a CBT is for you to get the result as soon as possible. I gave them data. Before we had this registrar come on board, JAM was able to release results 48 hours after the exam. A couple of years back, this registrar, due to its execution excellence, was able to release the JAM result within 24 hours. And I asked the question, you have started this JAM, today makes it 1 week, you have not released the result. What is the problem? And they didn't respond. So for me, it's the lack of ability of JAM as an institution to be a self-correcting, a quick and agile organization that can recognize a problem, have the strength of character to correct it and to move on. It's not fair that 300 and something thousand students got results they shouldn't get. It is not fair to those students.
I'd like to follow up on that with Professor Kola Kazim to look at the viability of the exam itself, particularly, you know, with the flurry of reactions that this has generated from students who failed in error, to debates of the past about the need for the review of the JAM template. And many have compared it to the equivalent that is done in the United States, that would be the scholastic exam, which is done about 7 times in a year, and the result is valid for at least 7 years. But time and again, our own students have to, you know, sit for that exam again after they have failed it. Perhaps maybe they are unable to, you know, secure the required cutoff mark for the course that they require. Prof, I'd like you to weigh in on this in light of these complaints that have trailed this very critical exam in recent times?
Thank you very much. Ordinarily, our situation is a little bit funny when you look at it. How did we come into all of this, and particularly with regards to the layers of examination that students have to do before they get admission? For instance, after writing the JAM, go for pursue UTME. These are evidences of lack of trust in the quality of what is coming out of JAM, for instance. Not about JAM in particular, because when this registrar came on, he has at least done a number of things aimed at standardizing the examination. And aside from this error, which we all know that it could be something, we all condemn it.
We'll land on his thoughts. Prof, can you hear us? Okay, let's take it to our other guests who will also do justice, Mr. Yomi. Let's talk about beyond the rewriting, the errors and all of that will happen. We're also looking at some of the distress that these students will have to go through because they have other exams to write as well. But the prof has said he's talking to universities and the colleges to see what they can do to accommodate this because everything is time-bound. I want you to talk to us about, we still have about 1.2 million if you do the maths, or let's just say 1.1, or over 1 million people out of 1.9 who scored below 200, which is the average mark or the half points in this sense. Talk to us, when you hear that data, are you concerned about going to school versus learning?
Okay, great question. I think one thing I will need to quickly respond to is to know that for us to recognize the difference between an achievement exam and a ranking exam. An achievement exam is an exam that tests your competence in a subject. For example, WAEC NECO is an achievement exam. It tests your knowledge of a subject. A ranking exam, like JAM, is a test that is designed to rank candidates. So that is why in an achievement exam, you can pass or you can fail. So that's why there is a F9 in JAM, in WAEC. That's why there's an A1. That's why there's a B2. In JAM, because it's a ranking exam, there is no fail mark. That's why you don't fail JAM, because it's a ranking exam. The goal is to know number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 for all the 1.9 million or 2 million that wrote the exam. Therefore, that fixation on 200 as 50% is not a fair thing to focus on, because the goal is not to see who got above 200. In a ranking exam, that's not the goal. There's a whole section of education called measurement and tests. And part of what you are taught in measurement and tests is when you are designing a ranking exam, your goal is not to look for pass or fail. Your goal is to look for ranking. Now, if we focus on the 200, then we miss a point, because we are now applying an achievement measure on a ranking exam. Personally, I'm not too bothered with who got over 200 or not. I actually think, remember, if we had enough space for all those that wanted to go to our institutions, we wouldn't rank them. The reason why we are ranking them is because there is not enough space. I also, and let me use that to segue to the question you asked the professor earlier. I've taught in 5 higher institutions around the world. Nigeria is the only country where people write 3 exams to go to a college. In Nigeria, you write WAEC. If your parents are rich enough, you write NECO. If you are rich enough, you write GCE. Then you write JAM. Then you write post-UME. I don't know anywhere else in the world where students write 3 external examinations to gain admission to a college or to a university. In the US, you write your SAT. You can write it many times. So it's important for us to go back to the issue, and I wish that was where we started from. The conditions that led to the creation of JAM has changed. And let's be very real with ourselves. Remember, it wasn't the federal government that created JAM. It was the Committee of Vice Chancellors that made a request for an examination body. And then the federal government decided to set up a committee to recommend a solution on university admission. The committee recommended two different bodies, one a matriculation body and one an examination body. Submitted a report to the military government in 1978, and the military government merged the two and created Joint Admission and Matriculation Board. If you notice, the word exam does not exist in the name of JAMB. Compare it to WAEC, West Africa Examination Council. Compare it to NECO, National Examination. The word exam does not exist in JAMB because that is not the primary purpose of JAMB. There are 5 rules that JAMB has as mandate, of which writing exam is just one of it. There are 4 other mandates it has. But because we have now decided to focus only on the exam, that's why we're having the problem we're having. The biggest responsibility of JAMB is to get people to universities and our institution. And let me ask you this question. Check the data in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. JAMB hasn't been able to get people into higher institution because that clearinghouse role of JAMB, if you look at it, JAMB is a kind of a stock exchange where there's supposed to be a non-transaction that facilitate access to higher institution. JAMB has not been effective in that direction. So I tell people, we all talk about the exam and we'll talk about the exam, but the real role of JAMB, or the role of JAMB that is irreplaceable, is that sorting and getting people to higher institution. I'm going to just say the last thing about this. If you go to Canada as comparison, Ontario, for example, when a student gets to year 12, he writes his school exams. He will have been writing from his year 10. He writes his school exam. That child does not do any other exam to go to university in Canada. There is no WAEC equivalent in Canada that is going to write. There is no JAMB equivalent that is going to write. There is no post-UTME equivalent. Now, that is what happens in Canada. Let's go to UK. Think about a girl who attends Queen's College in Sabo in Lagos. If a girl, the closest school to Queen's College is the University of Lagos. If a girl wants to attend a university in UK, what does she need? She will write WAEC in her school and send that WAEC result or WAEC structure to the university in the US, in Canada, in England, and she will be given admission with only a WAEC. If that same girl who attends Queen's College wants to go to UNILAG, which is just a few kilometers down the road in Akoka, that girl will write WAEC, she will write NECO, she will write JAMB, she will write post-UTME. Question, why is it that that girl needs to write 3 exams to go to a university in Lagos that is poorly ranked compared to a university that is in top 20 in the world? Why is WAEC acceptable by Canada, by England, by UK, by Wales, by Australia, by the USA? But in Nigeria, that we have a NECO, we have a WAEC, those things are not sufficient to gain admission. We are just burdening young people with unnecessary exams. That doesn't help. And that's what we need to stop.
You have made such vital points, and I think naturally we should let Prof speak on this one. Why are we making life difficult for our students, it would seem, having to cross these different hurdles just to get into university? By the way, as he said, in global best practices, this does not happen. So is it like a Nigerian thing just to make life tough, make it more difficult than it is already? Prof, I'd like you to speak to that. And should we just abandon this entirely and be more progressive in our approach to university admission? This is for Professor Kola Kazim.
Well, sir, I always take exceptions to this issue about making something look as if it's a Nigerian thing. I believe that, yes, we make mistakes. We have problems with certain things that could be technical. And I always want us to look at the positive side of anything. If we are not doing it well, how can we do it well? It is not about condemning it. And I feel that each time we make it Nigerian, it pains me. Nigeria is not all that about negatives. And JAMB has not continuously been on the retrogression. This one came in, and I feel that people should take responsibility about it. I agree with my colleague when he says, when he talks about the challenges and the way we should go about it. I agree with that totally. And I feel that we can still up the game. The present registrar had put us at a particular level. And whoever is responsible for all of these infractions should be dealt with. And because one of the things that we have here is that each time there are infractions, there are no consequences. And consequences must be given. And some children have been punished unnecessarily, unjustifiably. So we should find a way of ensuring that such thing does not repeat itself. And not that it is a Nigerian thing and it must, no, it shouldn't be. Nigeria should be seen as doing it right, and we must work towards that. And we should not be all of the negative. There are things that works for us, and we must do it that way. We must support the registrar to make all of the amendments that are necessary so that we don't have such things repeat itself again. Every year we should have something that is giving us an improvement, not that we should be retrogressing. These are my words for that now.
Making JAM more viable and to fulfill the purpose for which it was established in the first place, would you support calls for a reduction in the number of hurdles that students have to cross before they get to higher institution, and especially to make the JAM result valid for more than 1 year?
Well, by law, JAM result is valid for 3 years. It's supposed to be valid for 3 years. It's there. It's not something that is new. And if anybody is not allowing that, then it means it's an aberration. I mean, if you have a certificate and for one reason or the other you cannot go, it is valid. It's supposed to be valid. And that is the law. It's not a favor. It's not that it is 1 year thing. Go and look at the policy statement of JAM. It's 3 years. In fact, people are suggesting that it should be moved up to 5 years. So anyone who is resisting and rejecting children submitting their result, bringing up their results after 1 year, is doing the wrong thing, and it should be sued.
All right, Prof, apparently there's a long walk to freedom in that sense, but we must take all the lessons therein. Mr. Ayomi, in closing, how do you think that in going forward, all of the things that has happened should be approached, especially given the inundation of exams that we have at hand?
For me, I think one of the things we shouldn't do is that we shouldn't call for the sack of Professor Oluede. One of the things you want to do as a manager is that when people make mistakes, you make them learn from it and make them improve it. So I don't support the call for the sack. I also think it's important for us to start to educate JAM on its responsibility to society in such a way that is more people-centric. I was very concerned that when Professor Oluede was speaking yesterday and released the press statement, he never made a comment about the girl that allegedly committed suicide because of her JAM score. I was taken aback because I expected that should be so. Even though as of now you may say we can't say what caused it, but there should be some human face to that. Every time JAM has a problem, JAM takes a process approach, not a human approach. And that's typically the case when the leader of the organization is more tasks versus people. Again, I tell Nigerians every time I get up, we know Professor Oluede from his days as Deputy Vice Chancellor at University of Ilorin, from his days as Vice Chancellor of University of Ilorin. I was a member of ASU. We went on a national strike while he was Deputy Vice Chancellor and when he became a national. A case went to court. The case of the Ilorin 49 or 47 was Professor Oluede played a central role there. When people are process-driven, task-driven versus people-driven, they likely will make a lot of mistakes, particularly when they are dealing with vulnerable people, and young people are vulnerable people. Check every time JAM gets into a scandal, there's a way it approaches things, whether it's a case of Mensoma, whether it's a case of one student making an allegation. Every problem that JAM has identified today, which they have done well in doing, could have been solved if they choose another people approach to it. The last thing I want to say related to that is that there's a need for us to have a conversation in Nigeria. Nigerian students should not write 3 exams to gain admission. I feel we should not have more than 2 examinations that right. I wrote JAMB in the 80s. The people who got admission to universities in the 70s did not write JAMB. I wrote JAMB and I wrote WAEC. Now, the generations after us, why are we layering things on them? So I think part of what we should do, I also think part of what we should do is that we should reduce the number of institutions that you need JAMB to gain admission for. Remember, when the JAMB Act was written, it was only targeting universities. You only wrote JAMB if you wanted to go to university. In 1978, when the decree was brought out, if you wanted to go to a college of education, you wanted to go to a polytechnic, you only use your WAEC. Then the law was reviewed that today, for you to go to practically any higher institution, you need to write JAMB. I think we need to reverse that. I think JAMB should only focus on university admission. Remember, the name of JAMB, at a point, the exam was University Matriculation Exam. It was under the former registrar, the idea of bringing every school came in. And if you remember, which is what I think is part of the reforms we need, when the idea of bringing in other schools, polytechnic colleges came, there were 2 separate exams. There was an exam for universities, and there was an exam for polytechnics and colleges of education. Then JAMB merged them and just created 1 exam. And if you check the data, because there's all this argument, oh, the trend is consistent. The trend is consistent because you match 2 exams for 2 categories of people. Why should I want to study medicine? Why should you test me in biology as somebody who wants to become a doctor? The same subject with somebody who wants to go to a college of nursing to become a nurse. Why are we testing maths for the same person who wants to go and study mathematics in university and somebody who wants to go and study architecture design in a polytechnic? Why are we testing the same English for somebody who wants to be a journalist like you and somebody who wants to go and become an engineer? Why are we using the same subject for people doing different courses, for people going to different schools, for people whose careers are not going to be the same? Why are we testing geography, history, biology, as if everybody needed it at the same level? Those are the reforms I think we need to do. Get those schools out of there, design a separate way to test those people. Let JAMB focus on University of Admission based on the 1978 decree that was written initially. So the numbers are lesser, the focus is more concentrated, and then people have other alternatives if they don't make JAMB. And of course, the idea of JAMB being allowed to have the result to be for more than 1 year. I think somebody needs to take that decision and say, as from now, I also feel that JAMB should not be written once in a year. I teach in higher institution in Canada. We have admitted 2 sets of new students is May. By the end, every year we admit 3 sets of new students every year.
Right.
If JAMB is done twice a year, then colleges and universities can admit people in January, in May, and in December, and not one. And then all our complaints around carrying capacity ends because you can bring in more people to the higher institution system.
Well, Mr. Farimi,
I need to correct impression.
Right, quickly, Prof, because we need to wind down, but you can quickly speak to that.
Please, I need to correct that impression. There's an impression you created, and I think that needs to be corrected. Oh, shit.
Prof, you can speak. We need to wind down now, but you can do that quickly.
Sir. Well, I just need to correct the fact that the exam that is written by all is not discriminatory. It is an examination that expects that anyone who passes well will go for whatever course you have chosen. And they don't write the same subjects. Okay, if somebody is, if for every children that applies to JAMB, all of them, the interest is about going to the university, ab initio. But it is at the point of giving them admission that we now have reasons to now push them. If you choose medicine and you cannot qualify for medicine, that's the way it is, sir. I'm in the university system. If you have a score of about 300 and something and you want medicine and you have the cutoff mark, you go into medicine. If you can't get that, then you go into the courses that your score qualifies you. That's the way it is. It's not that everybody is writing the same exam. If somebody is going to go into College of Education, for instance, and nobody wrote to come and go to College of Education, but JAMB gave everybody the opportunity to choose. If you cannot go into the university, you choose another polytechnic. If you are not choosing, then you go to College of Education. That is what JAMB did. And it doesn't make it compulsory and enforceable. So it is about your capacity and what you made out of the examination. That's my understanding of it.
All right. Well, I think the point is clear. We need to ensure that the process doesn't look like it's trying to keep people from getting in. It should be
exactly.
It should be in such a way that it encourages people to get in, because we're trying to educate our people. So if you have to write series of examinations to get into a university when in other climes just have to write one, then it doesn't really taste good. And regarding the validity of UTME results, I know for D is 3 years, but maybe not for JAM. I know the House of Reps tried to move that to 3 years, but I'm not aware that it's now 3 years, Professor Kola Kazim. It's DE. That is 3 years. That's a statement of result for direct entry.
Oh, I think, well, I don't know whether it is discriminatory, but I think it's a 3-year thing.
Yeah, for direct entry, just for people out there. But again, it's good to have this conversation. I think the point has been made. We need to rethink our admission process. And we have to thank you so much, Professor Kolawole Kola Kazim and Mr. Yomi Fawemi, for your time on the show today. This is definitely not the end of this conversation. We'll still continue this, but we'll go on a quick break now. When we return, we'll turn our attention to another issue. Please stay with us.
Welcome back, and education is still very much in our line of vision. This time around, we're reviewing the suspension of the bilateral education agreement by the federal government, which was announced about 2 weeks ago. A government citing the program being a waste of resources. But on the other hand, the students under the program say, hey, we are subsistent students and you need to do right by us. And so if you missed our conversation, by the way, with the Minister of Education held just last week, you can go back and watch that on YouTube to get a more vivid position of the federal government. But we have one of the students joining us on the program today, and of course, a parent of students under the program. So let's welcome Dr. Ihe Sekien, spokesperson, parent of BEA scholars, medical doctor, and former vice chairman, Nigeria Medical Association, FCT chapter, and formerly chief physician to Edo State Governor. Dr. Ihe Sekien joins us from our Abuja studio. He joins us virtually. And also joining us this morning is Dalhatu Tijani, a BEA scholarship beneficiary, coordinator, Union of Bilateral Education Agreements Scholars, UNBIAS. He's also a final year medical student at Hassan II University, Casablanca, Morocco. He joins us also virtually from Casablanca in Morocco. Dalhatu, for good reason, I'm going to start with you. You are the coordinator of the Union of Bilateral Education Agreement Students. So give us a sense of what your case is, what is being owed you, and perhaps efforts to have an interface with the Ministry of Education back home and what you're hearing. Let's start with that.
All right, thank you so much. Please permit me to use this opportunity to thank you specifically, Madam Nicola, for giving us a listening ear and the whole team of Channels Television. I also want to take a moment to appreciate the federal government who have given us this opportunity, which without it, we wouldn't be here today discussing the bilateral education agreement scholarship. So I would love to have like 5 minutes to give an overview, a holistic view of what the scholarship entails so that the whole nation would understand the part of the federal government as well as the parts of the host countries. So the bilateral education agreement, as the name implies, includes Nigeria and other host countries. In this case, we have Morocco, Algeria, Russia, we have China, among other countries. So Nigeria will send scholars to these various countries and then to study different courses such as medicine, nursing, and other engineering courses. These host countries are responsible for the tuition of us, the scholars. They are also responsible for accommodation, and they also give little stipends every month, as the case may be. It varies from one country to another, while Nigeria is responsible to provide little stipends to augment feeding, to augment transportation, among other things. So Nigeria is responsible to pay $500 per month to each scholar, as well as $200 for health insurance, that's annually, and a $500 medical allowance to medical students, and then one clothing of $250, among other things. So ever since we left, this scholarship has specific problems. Mostly, we have problems from the part of the Nigerian government in sustaining and paying the $500 per month to each scholars. So this is a persistent issue that predates even this current government. So the host country's responsibilities, to be fair, they have discharged their responsibilities with effectiveness. We have never had a situation where a student will complain that his school fees has not been paid. His school fees are always paid. For the accommodation, most of the countries do provide accommodation, with the exception of Morocco, which did not provide accommodation to scholars. So in Morocco, our scholars have to go and rent. And a survey was done sometimes back in 2020 when I was the president of the Student Union. We found out that a student pays around $200 to $300 per month on accommodation, electricity bills, among other utilities. So, and that is being paid from the $500 the Nigerian government pays. Also from the host countries, they also provide stipends. And this is to make clarification to the press release by the minister. I don't know where the information is coming from, so that you would understand that the countries do not support the students in the same quantity. There are countries that their economy is viable, such as China, Serbia, among others. And then we have countries whose economy is not that viable and do not support students with as much stipends as others. So I will give you this table. In Morocco, a scholar in Morocco, the Moroccan government pays around 120 United States dollars every 2 months. So that is about 60 United States dollars in a month. And in Russia, a student gets about 24 United States dollars monthly. In Algeria, a student gets 70 United States dollars for the whole academic session. And in Venezuela, they do not get anything at all. In Serbia, because they are postgraduate scholars, they get 150 United States dollars monthly, while in China, they get about $410 for master's scholars, and then $480 for PhD scholars. In Hungary, and undergraduate and master's scholars get 105 euros monthly, while for PhD students, they get 240 euros monthly. We must emphasize that PhD students have family that they cater for, hence why their money is higher compared to other scholars. So this is to correct the impression that BEA scholars are not living in heaven, as the press release stated by the minister actually stated. Also, the host countries are not also providing health insurance. Only China and Hungary provide health insurance. So every other country has to pay for their own health insurance. Now, the government in the press release of the minister stated that all backlogs have been paid up until December 2024. However, from our records, that is not the case. So the government is still owing scholars 4 months of 2023, which is from September to December. The 8 months of 2023 that was paid from January to August still had a shortfall of about 1,000 United States dollars, which is equivalent to like 2 months. So in 2023, the scholars are still being owed about 6 months, roughly. And in 2024, only at the point of payments, the scholarship board sent us this letter indicate that the payment is going to be reduced by 56%.
All right, Mr.
So
Dalhatu, I see that you have a lot of information to share. We'll come back to you because of time. Let's take it to Dr. Paul. Let's hear your own side of the story as well. I know from the description we have here as a spokesperson of the parents of BEA scholars, medical director, yes, parent of BEA scholars as well. Maybe, is it the same version of events in this scenario, in that sense? Because we had the Minister of Education made a few remarks about some of these things, and which I'm going to reference based on the new policy of government. But let's hear from you. Dr. Paul, the question is for you. If you can unmute your device so we can hear you. All right, Mr. Dalhatu, apparently, let's come back to you. And I know that, so some of the things you have listed, we've heard, that's why we allowed you to list them, just so that the people in authorities can you know, compare notes and look at the books. But since this has happened, how has the student, have they been hanging in? Because there's also right now some review in terms of our national policy called the Nigeria First policy, where some of these scholarships, in that sense, may be reviewed and it may actually affect scholarship like yours. I'm not talking about those of you who are there already in the future.
It's actually really suffering, especially like I said for the case of Morocco where we pay rent. I shared some videos to you through your producer to show the devastating state of the students. Landlords are chasing students out of the house. Students are being jam-packed in one apartment that maybe the parents can afford to pay. The dollar to naira exchange rate is no more feasible for our parents to support us. And then the contract that we have also with the government does not allow us or permit us to work. Therefore, we are really, really suffering. And I must appreciate the Nigerian embassy in the various countries who have been supportive of the students. I will give an instance where a student got sick, and then the parents do not have the money to pay for it. It's in Morocco, and the student have had a complicated appendix. So the embassy have to lend to the students 10,000 dirhams for him to undertake that operation. And it's a complicated operation. Yet the parent has to source something to send it. So we do not have health insurance, and then the landlords are on our head. We're not able to focus on our studies, and we kept pleading and begging with the government. The only way we are able to reach out to the government is through the Director of Federal Scholarship Board. She kept assuring us that the money would be paid. But as I speak to you, the last payments we got was around September, which was basically slashed. And then we had debt of landlord that we use that money to clear. So we're still just struggling, and nothing has come up. The minister, we've not been able to speak with him. All that we heard from him is the press release saying that they are cancelling the scholarship, saying that they have paid us till 2024. All efforts to meet him, even from the side of our parents, prove abortive. So he is not even engaging us to hear what is our problem and what we expect from the government. With regards to the Nigerian policy, I think we don't have much to say on that regard. All that we are saying is the government should look in our own direction. Since we have an existing contract and we are in these various countries, we are suffering. Landlords look at it. Landlords are chasing us out of our house. People are falling sick and the government is not doing much. So let them try to do right by us. And it raised the question that are they actually cancelling it because it is the Nigerian policy that was adopted just a few days ago, or are they cancelling it because they are not able to sustain the scholars that are there? Why? Because in 2023 we were not paid. In 2024, the money was slashed by 56%. And then in 2025, what we're hearing is that we're cancelling the scholarship. So us that are there, how sure are we that the government is going to continue to fend for us and actually support us? So we're calling on the minister to listen to us. We're calling on the minister to engage us, to speak with our parents and to speak with the scholars union leaders and to look our way in order to sort out these issues and come to the help of and rescue of the students. The scholarship is a very, very important tool. I just see it as an example of a parent and a father. Probably a father say, I don't want to send you to this private school, it's so expensive, so I'm going to switch you to this private school. The child does not have the right to fight the father, and that's our case. So we do not have the right to fight the government on their own decision. However, as patriotic Nigerians, we can advise the government on what we think it is right for them to do. What happens? This scholarship has been in existence since 1970s. What happened to the bilateral relationship between Nigeria and these post countries? What happened when they noticed that Nigerians are no more sending students? So it's actually a bilateral relationship, something, and then the Nigerians were also sending. It's not a waste of resources. Myself, I'm my final year of medicine. Tell what the parent we have, his child is studying medicine in Morocco. We have the likes of Dr. Halima, who's actually doing her internship in Nigerian hospital here in the ABU area. We have nurses. Do we all address those people as waste of resources? And then the international exposure we're getting helps us or places us at a better position to represent Nigeria nationally as well as, yes, sir, we are coming to you. So it gives us the opportunity to represent Nigeria nationally as well as in the global stage. Today we celebrate Dr. Ali Patil because of the international exposure, Dr. Onkozi Okonjuela, they all had international exposure, and we feel Nigeria should tap into it. I'm not supporting Nigeria to send students to study English and geography. Definitely I'm not doing so, but I'm calling on Nigeria to review the system so that we can prioritize courses that will be beneficial to Nigeria as a whole and to the students at large.
All right, Dalhatsu, of course, you've very well articulated your position and the position of Nigerian students under this program. But it appears as if there must be a communication gap between you and the Ministry of Education, or between you and the Minister of Education himself because of some of the things that you have said. But we must capture the minister's position, which has been expressed in the statement, as you say, and of course on our own platform only recently. And the minister said when he assumed office, that he was asked to approve 650 million naira for 60 students going to Morocco under the BEA program. And he said he refused, saying that this was unfair to Nigerian students. And in reviewing the program, some of the inconsistencies that he also discovered was that Nigerian students under the program are studying English in Algeria, a French-speaking country, psychology, and other related courses that are better taught in Nigeria. I'm bringing this now to Dr. Paul. I hope that we can get Dr. Paul to respond to this. But if not, Dalhatu, I'd like you to speak to this reservation that the ministry has about the program.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh, okay, Dr. Paul is back now. So Dalhatu, let's just take this to Dr. Paul.
Yeah.
Dr. Paul, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bukola, for this question, for having me, and good morning to Nigerians. First and foremost, before I come to your question, I want to appreciate the founders of Nigeria who thought it wise that they should give Nigerian students international exposure. Now, basically, as a parent, we understand that the courses for which these students are sent abroad are not courses regularly available in Nigeria. Robotic engineering, aeronautic engineering, some medicine, some various very specialized courses that these students undertake in these various countries. And like the students union president said, the level of support from the host countries is wonderful. Like my daughter, who is studying medicine, her tuition is about 11,600. The host country pays it, dollars, the host country pays it. And at the point of this contract, there was an agreement, a contract agreement, which has been held much in default. And I want to plead with the federal government through the Minister of Education, and of course to the father of the nation, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. You know, sometimes when policy statements are made, we are sometimes taken aback because we realize that the president we know, a president who came and established NEFOND that did not exist, it means that he is so much interested in the welfare of Nigerian students, be it in Nigeria or in diaspora. I do not contemplate the same president who loved the Nigerian students so much and want to reduce their suffering would suddenly withdraw support for Nigerian students who have been sent abroad to stay as Nigerian ambassadors. Take note that these students are studying in a different language from English language. And so that becomes even an advantage to us as a country. And they come back as professionals in their respective field. They return to Nigeria by the agreement they signed to serve Nigeria as a country. The student representative has already debunked many of those insinuations or the press statements saying that they had been paid. That's not true. My daughter is in Russia. I pay, as I speak to you now, I need to raise 1.6 million naira and send to her for accommodation, which is due. She needs to pay it before the second week of June for the next session. All right. So, and this token, which is huge, that the federal government gives to these students, I am appealing to the Minister of Education and by extension, the father of the nation, to please look at with compassion on these students. And of course, I won't forget that the mother of the nation too, I am sure that they are not even aware of some of these things, because what they say is completely different from what some government agents are speaking. I will, for emphasis sake, I will say that a government came and gave us student loan. I don't see that government turning around to starve foreign students. And for the foundation of Nigerians.
All right. All
the
right.
truth,
Please wrap up in 20 seconds.
Are into prostitution. Many female students are into prostitution. Some male students are into drugs right now because they need to survive. And some are in jail. Is that what we want for Nigeria's image? No.
All right. Dr. Paul Ihensekian, thank you so much, and Dalhatu Tijanu. Dr. Paul Ihensekian is a spokesperson, parent of BEA scholars, a medical doctor, and former vice chairman, Nigeria Medical Association. Dalhatu Tijani, who joined us virtually from Morocco, is a BEA scholarship beneficiary, coordinator, Union of Bilateral Education Agreement Scholars on BES. We hope that this has provided a very veritable platform for the Ministry of Education to continue the engagement with the students under the program such that there can be a reconciling of accounts. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And there's more to come on the program. After the break, stay with us for this next conversation on the role of art in national development. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Let's get to the exciting world of arts and culture. We're being joined on the program by the Director General of the National Gallery of Arts from our Abuja studio, Mr. Ahmed Sodanji. Mr. Sodanji, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
All right, one of the things we want to focus on is how we can use arts to drive national development. We are a country, we are still aspiring to be a nation in the strict sense of it. You're going to speak to that in a moment, but we would like you to give us, since assumption of office, what your remarks will be and an overview of the state of our galleries across the country. Because when I look at things like Met Gala, for instance, I think of what we can do to replicate that, to even promote some of our arts and our culture in the country.
All right, well, thank you so much for having me, and good morning once again. Well, like you said, over the past year since we assumed office, from the National Gallery of Arts point of view, what we've looked at is to see the position of the National Gallery, what it means and what it entails to the art community and the ecosystem. Like you rightly said, you know, we have a lot of galleries all over that are flourishing, and that means to tell you the art conversation is happening, and a lot of people are now being more awakened and now being in tuned to the art world. And then what that does in terms of the National Gallery is gives us a clear position and see how we could improve and bring about the conversation and look at art as a means of national development, as a means of cultural advantage, cultural diplomacy, and how we can spread in terms of our reach.
So talk to us about how the gallery itself, the National Gallery of Art, is grafting into the policy direction of the broad ministry, I think Ministry of Art, Culture, Tourism, and Creative Economy, led by that minister who has come up with all kinds of innovation. Whether it's going to see the light of day is what everybody's praying, because they are quite ambitious. When you look at the arts and the art gallery in that sense in the country, it's almost like an exclusive preserve of, generally, when you talk about art, is literally an exclusive preserve of the elites in that sense. But we'll try to make it accessible to as many people as possible. So my question is, from the policy statement and policy direction of the ministry that you're under, how have you grafted your area into that ministry, and what exactly are these policy direction in the nearest future?
All right, to answer your question, let me first of all give you a brief overview of the ministry and the agencies under the ministry. This is the first time we're having a Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and the Creative Economy. So I believe under the wisdom of His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, creating this ministry serves as a repository for all creatives and how we can harness the creative economy. For us, under the Ministry of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy, under the able leadership of our Honorable Minister, like you rightly said, you've seen so many policy directions, so many innovations, so many puzzles picking up at once. And this is because the creative economy has been happening even before the government decided to bring up the creative economy and the Ministry of Arts and Culture as a standalone ministry. So what we can do as government is to see how we can leverage on the already existing economy. And by doing so, you have to look at how you position yourself, how you can interface, how you can interact in such a way that the creative economy is receptive to policies in government. Because if the economy is happening and there's no clear direction in terms of policy, we cannot really record and see the actual contribution of the creative economy to the GDP. Let's take, for instance, the National Gallery of Art. How we are aligning with the policy of the ministry is, first of all, looking at ourselves as an agency, what we mean to the art system, and where we hope to be. So in doing so, we looked at the agenda of the President, the Renewed Hope agenda. We looked at the 8-point agenda of the Honorable Minister and see how we can also benefit from it, because it is now left for us to take advantage of the opportunity. We looked at what we do, and we came up with 4 strategic pillars. First and foremost is the policy review, looking at the enabling act of the NGA itself, seeing that we were established in 1993 and fast forward to 2025, policies, directions, the art conversation has changed. So we're looking at how we can now position ourselves in such a way that we're going to be the foremost institution of art in the country. We're looking at fundraising and collaborations because, like you know, the creative economy, particularly the arts, cannot flourish without collaborations, partnerships with the private sector, organizations, banks, media, and all those things. We looked at internal reforms, how we can, within ourselves as an agency, how we can look at training, retraining, looking at global best practices on how we can do our day-to-day mandate. And lastly is one of our flagship programs that we introduced, which is the National Art Renaissance Program, where we looked at the National Collection. The National Gallery of Art is the custodian of the National Collection. The National Collection is artworks that were bought with public funds that are held in trust on behalf of the country, and see how we can now reposition ourselves. Unfortunately, we do not have a National Gallery edifice, and these artworks have been in storage for a very long time. So what we've done is to see how we can, first and foremost, take a proper valuation of the National Collection, let us know the true worth of our artistic assets, and also see how we can digitally catalog it and restore some of these artworks. I believe by doing so, it gives advantage and it gives value to Nigerian artists and also artworks, because Nigerian artworks are one of the most sought after artworks in the world. So what we need to do internally is to see how we can create value around it and look at all the value chain. So this is some of the things the National Gallery has been concentrating on, and to see how we can leverage with the already existing creative economy and bring out incentives that artists can recognize and key into.
Let me just quickly follow up on your work on the art collection, but I'll put it in context. Prior to your assumption of office, some of the concerns raised about the National Gallery of Art was the state of the Nigerian collection itself. Over 3,000 of them, I believe, are said to not have proper storage facility, and in fact, some of them had begun to flake. Besides other concerns about, the gallery itself losing its vibrance. We'll talk about all the other concerns. But in the meantime, what intervention is being provided to provide proper storage for the national collection?
Yes, like you said, you know, one of the major issues we have under the ministry across board is the lack of proper infrastructure. Because some of the infrastructures we've inherited have been there for years and not very well managed. And so with the national collection, what we did is we looked at the storage facility. First and foremost, that was why I spoke about the National Art Renaissance Program, because it speaks to the national collection. Because we have to, first of all, restore, catalog, and value the national collection. So in preserving these artworks, what we're doing currently in our outstation in the Lagos office is we've partnered with Goethe Institute, Museum of West African Arts, Julius Berger, and now Federal Ministry of Finance Incorporated. The partnership with Goethe Institute is, first and foremost, they're going to help revamp the storage facility while we take a condition assessment of all the artworks and have a proper digital inventory of the artworks. And Museum of West African Arts have graciously come in to help in conservation and training of our staff and conserving some of the artworks. And Julius Berger has magnanimously donated some containers to temporarily store those artworks while work is ongoing on the digital archiving, and while we commence work on the maintenance and the refurbishing of the storage facility. So these are some of the initiatives we've keyed into to see how we can, as quickly as possible, make sure these national assets are in very good and mint condition, while we also look at valuation. This is the partnership with Federal Ministry of Finance Incorporated in collaboration with the Ministry of Arts, Culture and the Creative Economy. We've signed an MOU because we need to have a holistic approach to see what value it is attached to the assets under the Federal Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism and the Creative Economy. So in terms of the storage facility, work is ongoing now, and I assure you before the end of the year, we're going to finish with those works. Our storage facilities are going to be apt and in good condition. The artworks are going to be in mint condition.
Right.
And while we await the valuation of the national collection.
Right. Just looking through your bio, your antecedents, and seeing the experience you've had from aviation, to the bank of industry, I want to know how you bring all of this to bear, or how you are already, perhaps you are doing that, particularly to retrieve stolen art, artifacts, and the rest, because we have lots of them. I'm sure we've even lost count, scattered across the world, London, Netherlands. Some have been returned, but some will say a lot more are out there. So is that something you're working on? How are you bringing to bear your skills to ensure that some of these things return home and, yes, they're stored well, preserved well, which you've spoken to already?
Well, yeah, looking at my background and the position I'm at today, one thing that I know very well is value and value addition. Looking at the work we've done in the Bank of Industry, I was a project officer for a long time. And the experiences in terms of how you identify value in creating value creation, value addition is what we're bringing to the fold. Because we look at the creative industry, and I believe the National Gallery of Art plays a very pivotal role in this position. Because one of the two key areas that is required for the ministry is economic development and job creation. And I believe the National Gallery of Art is strategically placed there because you have to look at the value chain. Looking at all of the agencies under the ministry, you will find out that the National Gallery of Art is the one that has most of the value chains of art. And for me, I look at value addition. And then what is the value? The value is the artworks. So one thing we can do is to improve on the value of those artworks. Like I said earlier, Nigerian art is one of the most sought after arts in the world. We have examples of masters that are internationally renowned art masters that are Nigerian that have sold arts worth millions and billions of naira. And this is something we would like to replicate at the national level. And in the National Gallery of Art, well, that's why we're trying to reposition ourselves to be that foremost institution where every artist's hope is to have his artwork exhibited in the national collection. Every artist's dream is to have him exhibited by the National Gallery of Art. So one of the strategies that we're looking at is to see how we can first and foremost document this artist, give out certifications, because I believe any artwork that has a proper documentation carries value. So what that does, it gives it a base value for your artwork. And also one of the things we're going to start doing is start issuing out art travel permits, so that any artwork that leaves the shores of the country will be documented, and that helps us to establish provenance. So I believe these are the small incentives that the National Gallery is already, these are ongoing, and very soon we're going to roll out these initiatives through our website, and so I urge people to stay tuned and key in. And speaking to our lost artworks and artifacts, well, you know, there's another agency under the Ministry of Arts and Culture, National Commission for Museum and Monuments, that handles the repatriation of our stolen artifacts. We handle the modern and contemporary art, and this is the purview of the National Gallery.
Well, let's talk more about the vibrance of the National Gallery of Art as a platform, you know, to convening, you know, innovators and artists of the creative economy. Many refer to the days of lost glory of the Art Expo and the other programs under the National Gallery of Art. The question is, what budget is available to the National Gallery of Art to restore this vibrance such that, you know, these innovators are converged under that age-long vibrance, and again, you know, to take advantage of new innovations, you know, in this regime of creativity?
Well, yeah, I agree with you. Some of the flagship programs of the National Gallery has slowed down a bit, largely due to funding. And this, I believe, over the last year, we've seen some significant improvement, particularly in the art scene, because you have a lot going on in the ecosystem. So what we now need to do is to see how we can partner, because very importantly, I believe the funding for this sector is through partnerships. Government has done an excellent job now with the creation of this ministry. So that is to tell you that there's a clear and deliberate approach and attention on it, because the creative economy, I beg your pardon, has the ability to, of course, create jobs and also add to the GDP like we've seen in other countries. Some of the flagship programs like the Art Expo, just I think yesterday actually, the National Gallery closed the 3rd edition of the International Art Expo. These were flagship programs that were the talk of the town in the booming years of the National Gallery. But like I said, due to funding, it has slowly died down. But this is due to the fact that there are so many activities and so many approaches as at today that I think we believe we need to capture. And this has to be an innovative way of thinking. And we're trying to see how we can bring it back with a twist to it, because now more than ever, the attention is here. What we need to do is just to take advantage of those attentions and try as much as possible to amplify them. Funding has always been an issue, and we can see the efforts of the Honorable Minister. Just, I think last month, the ministry launched the Creative Economy Development Fund, which gives creatives access to finance to help start up and build their business, because we have to look at the art. We have to look at the art scene as an art business, because that's one of the things that has been neglected over the years, and this has been the gap that has happened, and why there's no much attention in the creative economy.
All right, as we need to wind down, I can't take my mind off.
I can't take my mind off Met Gala. It's a convergence of arts and costume and fashion and all of that, I think, done by Vogue. So are you thinking about it in that direction in terms of bringing the collectives within the fashion industry to amplify our art? And put up something like the clothes as we see around Nigeria as around the AMVCA, their culture night or traditional night. But that's another aspect that we're not exploring, to have something on our creative economy calendar to drive traffic to some of the arts we're talking about. Are you thinking in that direction?
No, I think, well, you're right, and I think it's kind of already happening, because the AMVCA just finished and the Honorable Minister was there in attendance, and you could see, like you said, the convergence of art, fashion, culture happening there. So I think what needs to happen is to have more of this events
No, Mr.
in the
Ahmed,
calendar
my
of the
apologies.
ministry.
If you can hear me, I'm saying, just like we have the Met Gala, for instance, that's AMVCA done by a private organization and all of that. I'm talking about for your gallery. You are in charge of the gallery in that sense. Something that brings that collective to the gallery to say, okay, let's use fashion as a route to see what we have on offer in our gallery. It's going to be a great idea, don't you think?
No, absolutely, I agree with you. And actually, this year, in our line of programs, we have some programs that actually have that kind of collaboration. And because we believe, like I said earlier, collaboration is the way forward. And as the custodians of the creative spirits of the creative economy, we need to have that synergy with fashion, with food and whatnot. So we have 2 or 3 programs that are coming up this year that will feed to what you're talking about. And this is going to be like a continuous program where we're going to, of course, continue the conversation of art, fashion, and then where it could actually be that sort of event.
Well, thank you so much. The reason why we had to have this conversation, Mr. Soranji, is because we want to see how we can use art for national development and unity. This is the part where we don't have a conversation around which political party you belong, which region you come from. Is a unifying point. That's why it's quite important, the role you play for the government. DG National Gallery of Arts, Ahmed Soranji, joining us from our Abuja studios. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll get to the very last leg of the conversation to an exceptional person in our Diaspora Connect. Join us again. Today we're going to Regina, Saskatchewan in Canada with our Diaspora Connect. Welcome with us, Associate Professor Taiwo Afolabi. Well, there's a lot to him, really. So I'll just save time and mention a few. 3M National Teaching Fellow, Canada Research Chair in Socially Engaged Theatre, is Director Center for Socially Engaged Theatre, University of Regina. Dr. Afolabi, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning to you. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. I know you had to stay up late to have this conversation, but we have to. Come on, you're doing some amazing stuff out there. So we thought, hey, let's connect you with the Nigerian and African audience as well. I know you've done a lot of work. You still are doing a lot of work in Africa, but I want you to start off with that prestigious award that you just got. Speak to us about it. What does this mean for you, for Nigerians in the diaspora, and how much hard work did you have to do to get that?
Thank you so much, Mr. Kayode. I really appreciate the opportunity. And before I speak to your question, just special gratitude to the work that you're doing over there. And just want to appreciate every partners, collaborators, family, friends that have sort of worked with me to get to this point. And of course, to God for giving all grace. So the 3M National Teaching Fellowship is Canada's most prestigious recognition in terms of educational leadership and teaching in post-secondary education in the country. Of course, it's prestigious and it's an opportunity to be recognized. Now, for me, awards like 3M, it's not just about the awardee alone. While I'm grateful for the opportunity that has been given to me to recognize my teaching, teaching work and educational leadership that has spanned over 5 continents, and the kind of work that I've done. I'm really interested, I'm really happy with the fact that this kind of award really spotlights the amazing and remarkable work that Nigerians are doing all over the world. I think with an opportunity like this, we're literally breaking boundaries and breaking barriers and just moving beyond that single narrative. And I sincerely just wanna articulate that. The second thing also for me within my own profession in theater and performance broadly defined, is really recognizing the fact that theater art is live, is alive, is active. It can serve as a catalyst for social change and really incredible work that my colleagues are doing. And then finally, it's really also speaking to the kind of university that I'm at. This award has only been the last time it was given to a faculty, my university, was over 2 decades ago. So you see, across those levels, it becomes really critical that I'm really excited about it. And it's an encouragement and inspiration for people that look like me in Canada and in other parts of the world that are Nigerians saying, we're doing remarkable things. And hey, let's keep doing it.
Let's keep doing it. So talk to us about what you do now specifically, because you are in arts, theater, but you also put in a twist to it. It's not the usual. There's something different about what you're doing, such that you're able to get that recognition and speak to social issues, right? So speak to us about what you do peculiarly now.
Absolutely. So the kind of theater that I do is called applied theater, or some might call it social theater. It's really taking theater to the people, taking theater to community on houselessness, immigration, policing, and whatever social issues that are critical. And really using that as an opportunity to engage community and to bring about the kind of discourse and the debate that you want, that really someone wants the community to have. It's really about using theater for transformation and change. And really, when we speak about change in my own work, I start with us first. I always say we have to continue to think globally, but to act personally and of course locally. And so what I do with theater is go to community, work with children, with youth, with adults, with elders and the elderly, work in different settings from faith-based to non-faith-based, and really using theater to make that happen. And that's the kind of work that I do. And the spin that I kind of put into that is then bringing in the cultural and the creative sector into that. When I started many years ago, I started my theater company, Theater International and Mobile Research Lab. And it was really critical for us to start using theater not just only to think about disseminating information, but using theater and art generally to really get into people's thinking that if we want something to change, what kind of questions do we need to ask ourselves? How can we change things? How can we use theater as a catalyst, for nation building, for personal change and all of that? And that's the kind of work that I do. I take theater to the street, take theater to anywhere that I am needed to go, I take theater there, and then we create peace together to be able to speak to critical issues that are important to us.
Dr. Afolabi, I liked how you talked about the 3M award being important for people that look like you. And that's another important aspect of the conversation. What does this award mean for people of color in Canada? And give us a sense of some of those debates that the work that you are doing is sparking to improve people, the lot of people that look like you in Canada.
Absolutely, and thanks for the question, Bukola. So I run a center called Center for Social Language Theater, and part of my own critical piece and part of my ethos is to create space for people that look like me. We call BIPOC in Canada, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, people that are sort of like on the margin, people that come from a different kind of systems and cultures and all of that. And I want to create a space where they can thrive. And I think that that's what this kind of award really speaks to, is really the opportunity to inspire, the opportunity to tell people that are here or that are coming behind to say, you do matter. Regardless of your journey, we see the hard work. It's a lot of hard work, but it's also a lot of enjoyable opportunity to connect to other people, to say, you know what, as much as the burden of identity is there, there's also the joy of it. I want to inspire. And I think that's the beautiful thing about this kind of award, is that it's speaking to not just only the pedagogy in classroom, not just only the partnership and the connection and all of that, but it's really telling a story of of our people, the story, the hard work that many people from Nigeria and beyond are really doing in their play, in the countries where they domicile. So 3M is really an opportunity to really engage within the university, the post-secondary school, the post-secondary system too. And that's how when students that look like me are coming to school, they see a professor that look like them, and they can connect. And I've had different students come to me, talk to me about their situation. I've had to, of course, write letters, do different things for them, because really it's like it's like they're standing on the shoulder of a giant. And of course, I'm not a giant by any means, but it gives them that opportunity to say, if this person can do it, I can do it. And in all spaces where we find ourselves, we're doing remarkable things. And I think continually shining light on the kind of work that we're doing becomes very critical. And this is the result of that. So the 3M, based on the research that we've done, I don't think a Nigerian has even received it in its inception since 1986. So this will be the first time that a Nigerian would have received the 3M. So it means that we're doing something, and it's something that is really incredible. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be that torch bearer and passing it on and letting people know that, hey, we're doing remarkable things, and let's continue to do that.
Absolutely. So here comes the million-naira question. When and where can we experience your work in Nigeria? Should we be expecting anytime soon? Because great work you're doing out there. And some will say, let us test it small in Nigeria. I know you're doing some work, South Africa and the rest, but speak to us about your plans for Nigeria as well.
Well, without sharing so much, there's some work there's some things in the works for Nigeria. I recently just did a huge conference in Nigeria on applied theater in Benue State University, where I brought researchers all over the continent and outside the continent to Nigeria. Right now, I'm doing arts management in Africa, really bringing art leaders across the continent to speak to critical issues, cultural policy, different things that are important for us to change. And so there are a lot of other works that are coming in the country, and for sure I'll be definitely want to come back. I'll let you know, because I think there are some things in the making that will come to them and be able to expose them when the time is right.
I like a good tease. I like a good one. Very, very well done. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, because we have such a vibrant population of young people who are creative, who can do great stuff. Thankfully, they have the internet as well, so it's just a perfect combination. Absolutely. But the goal is to ensure that they start off the right way. But we have to appreciate you and thank you for the great work that you're doing, representing not just Nigeria, actually, but Africa out there positively. We've been speaking with Dr. Taiwo Afolabi, who just recognized with that prestigious award, the 3M National Teaching Fellow in Canada Research Chair in Socially Engaged Theatre, and Director Center for Socially Engaged Theatre, University of Regina. Joins us from Saskatchewan. We appreciate your time and wish you more wins.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kat, and thanks to the team.
All right, so... All right, so just before we go, let's bring you up to speed with some of the emails we've received so far. This is coming in from Akonde Adeyinka. Says, JAM should be aware that some Ibadan CBT centers too experience glitches. This is also coming from, I'm trying to get to, this one literally wrote everything. Alam Kiriel, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I am Chief Ezeogo, a victim of gunshots in Imo State. I live in Odofin, Lagos with family. So we're going to reach out. Said, my son, Patrick Chisom, Berego passed JAM in 2021 and scored 205. He chose Lagos as his first choice and Yaba Tech as second choice. Up till today, he has not been given admission, and JAM is talking 2025. So there's a lot of perhaps old complaints. I'm seeing even messages from people talking about the professor weeping and all of that. So we try to curate all of these emails just to let you know that we've seen your emails. Just time won't allow us. Olabi, we also saw your email, Ambassador Mustafa. But some of the time we'll take the mails, guys.
Well, we hope that JAM response looks like the scale of concern is bigger than what has been put out. And I have had cause, to engage on JAM's X platform, and the response was not as satisfactory. We hope that that becomes more effective in the coming days. But just keep them coming. We'll try as much as possible to get your concerns through to the body. That's our offering for you today on the program. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Bye-bye.
I'm Kayode Kikilo. Don't forget, Sunrise Daily is next. Goodbye.